So many people think that that pain is trying to prevent them from where they want to go. But what I've found is sometimes that pain is pointing you where you should go.
And what I now know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is every single one of us is born with greatness inside of us. Whether we are aware of that feeling or not, whether we have doubted ourselves out of even paying attention to that feeling, we don't become what we want. We become what we believe we're worthy of. And our self-worth is our ceiling. My whole journey has kind of been about learning how to turn down the volume on that self-doubt in my mind and up the volume on that knowing in my soul that says, I can do this, I'm worthy of it.
All right, guys, I do not really have words for this interview. As I was thinking about having the incredible Kern Lima on the show, I started to feel like, how do I unpack the wisdom, the value, the grace, the intelligence out of one woman in 45 minutes? But we're going to do our best because she is here with us today, from Denny's Waitress to a $1.2 billion exit and the first female CEO of L'Oreal. Jamie, thank you so much for being here today.
Candy, it is an honor to be here. Thank you for having me on your show. So grateful.
Oh my gosh, it is. There's so many places we can go. You already have an incredible book that you put out in the world. You have another book that's coming out into the world that we get to talk about. You've had an amazing career in business and everything that you've built and all of the lessons that life taught you throughout that time. And I'm thinking, where on earth do we even start to unpack Jamie? Because people see you as this polished, beautiful, successful woman, but I know that the journey to become you wasn't always that way. Can you take us back a little bit to what was going on in Colombia, waiting tables at Denny's? How did you start to become the woman that you are today?
You know, hearing you ask that question, I want to ask you that question. I think the beautiful thing about what you and I have in common, and I think probably so many people listening have in common, is our story in many ways is their story is our story. And I think it's such a gift to be able to kind of peel back the layers. And, you know, we all know, like, oh, we can Google things and see the highlight reel, but, you know, and yes, of course, I went from Denny's Waitress to building a $1 billion business, all of those things. But my real story is a girl who most of my life did not believe I was enough, didn't believe I was worthy of things. Most of my life, I doubted myself out of my own destiny. And it has been such a lifelong journey of, and even why I wrote Worthy in my new book is because most of my life did not understand that, like, for all of us, every single person listening to you and me right now, when it comes to our relationships and our friendships and our career and our ambitions and our hopes and our dreams, like, we don't become what we want. We become what we believe we're worthy of. And our self-worth is our ceiling in literally every area of life. And when I think about the journey of where you know, I started to where I'm at now, I think it's going to be a lifelong journey of continuing to learn. I'm worthy of being all who I am and the things that I want to go after and aspire to. And the thing I'm most excited about that you and I have in common, and I think everyone listening as well, is just when we hear people share the real stuff, like the real stuff behind their story, it helps us feel less alone and more enough, and like the dreams in our own life just might be possible. And we just might actually not be disqualified from them, and all the stories we tell ourselves. And so, you know, I was adopted when I was born and raised by the most amazing parents who worked really, really, really hard. I was home alone all the time, watched Oprah in my living room every day, dared to dream and pray and believe I would meet her one day. And that made no sense at the time, but I always just had really, really big dreams. I, you know, had a feeling inside of me, and maybe, Candy, you can relate to this, and probably so many of the people listening to us right now. I remember being an 8-year-old little girl watching this interview with Barbara Walters and Oprah. And I remember Oprah saying to her, "I've always felt I was destined for greatness." And I remember thinking as a little girl, like, I feel that way too, like this feeling, right? And what I now know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is every single one of us is born with greatness inside of us. Every single one of us, whether we are aware of that feeling or not, whether we have doubted ourselves out of even paying attention to that feeling, I believe we're all born with divine callings of greatness inside of us, with with a uniqueness only we can offer and express to the world. And I remember this moment of her saying that. I remember connecting to it. And and then I remember all the backlash Oprah faced from saying something like that, because 40 years ago, it's 35 years ago, the world was not ready for a woman to say, "I am destined." This just didn't know it. They didn't know how to handle it. But I remember just having that feeling. And then for anyone listening right now who's kind of had that feeling in their life, most of my life, again, I just kind of didn't believe I was enough. And I always struggled from going like, "Oh, but I have these big dreams. I feel different." And and sometimes like I don't belong, but I feel like I'm supposed to do great things in the world. And then I would kind of go back to doubting myself out of it. And I would go in and out of that phase. And I did a lot of my life. I remember the days waitressing tables at Denny's and just being grateful if someone like left a dime or a nickel on the table and didn't leave, because a lot this Denny's I worked at, they had major operational issues. They took like sometimes an hour to get pancakes out. So people would get so mad they would leave. And two things I remember is that our steps are ordered in life. Like, who knew that me watching operational issues at a Denny's would one day set me up to launch a business where I know you don't get your operations right, nothing else matters, right? All of our steps are ordered. But I also just remember waitressing tables and having thoughts like, "I bet I could run this right," or, just different thoughts like that, and going in and out of self-doubt in my mind and knowing in my soul, and trying to decide which one to listen to. And my whole journey has kind of been about learning how to turn down the volume on that self-doubt in my mind and up the volume on that knowing in my soul that says I can do this, I'm worthy of it. And I think the beauty, and I love your story so much, and this is your show, so I will not ask you all the questions, but your story and my story your story is so beautiful, Candy. And your story, the more you share of it, helps people believe that their dreams are possible. Right. And I think that's what it's all about. So that's really my journey. Now, I my biggest passion is just kind of taking everything I went through and help other people make it through it. And I just, for Worthy, my new book, I'm donating 100% of the proceeds. Like, it's literally my life's greatest work. And it's for every person who's ever doubted they're enough. And how do you actually implement the tools in your life to unlearn all the lies that lead to self-doubt and ignite those truths that wake up worthiness? So super grateful to be talking with you about it.
I love it. And I love that. I think that's really what it's all about, right? I think that all of those challenges that you've been through, the adversity that you faced, the pain, ultimately, even throughout that journey, it's so many people think that pain is trying to prevent them from where they want to go. But what I found is sometimes that pain is pointing you where you should go, being able to have those challenges. So now you can help so many people. And I'd love for a minute to just talk, because I know this comes up when I have really successful and very engaging people always, but I'm not them. I don't have that, right? Like, I don't have that bank account. I don't look like her. I don't have those connections. And they get tripped up in their mind to think that they need to develop confidence or they need to do something better. Can we speak to the person that says, I feel that in my soul, Jamie. I feel like I'm meant for more, but I don't know what to do because my current reality is painful. I have more month than money, or I'm, faced with this challenge with my family. How can we help them know what they're to do with this feeling that they have?
Yeah. So, okay. This is such a great question. And if you're good with it, I'm going to go granular. I'm going to go granular and tactical, because this is so important. Okay. So, I want to talk about two big things here. I want to talk about, there's a whole chapter in Worthy, the book, called You're Not Crazy, You're Just, and I want to explain what this means and how, when you embrace it, it starts to taste like freedom in your life. Because you don't need to do anything else or be like anyone else to ever get this ultimate feeling of fulfillment in life that we all strive for. But before I go there, I want to break down this, probably one of the biggest aha moments in my life that fundamentally shifted everything for me. And it was when I really understood the difference between self-confidence and all the things that we do to build it, and self-worth, which is very, very different. And both are so important in our lives. Both are so valuable in our lives. But self-confidence and self-worth are very different. And if people listen to our interview today and just take away one thing, this may be the one thing that shifts so much in their life. Because so many people think, if I just get that thing, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be enough.
Yeah.
Then all my problems will be solved. Then I'll feel fulfilled. And for so many of us, we have, well, let me just take a step back. So all the things that we are taught to think, if I finally get them, then I'm going to be happy, fulfilled, enough. Almost all of those things build self-confidence, but none of them build self-worth. They're very different, and it's why we continue to achieve, strive, arrive at levels in our life, have a certain bank account, finally get six-pack abs, get that relationship, whatever it is, and we still feel like something's missing. And just to break it down, so I thought self-confidence and self-worth were the same thing most of my life. And I continued to just achieve, and think I just need to achieve more to finally feel enough. I need to have what that other person has. I need to get enough people to like me. I need to serve enough, impact enough people, all those things, hit a certain level in my business. And here is what one of the biggest ahas in my life, and it's what caused me 3 years ago to become obsessed with studying self-worth, and it's why I wrote the book Worthy. Self-confidence, it's so important. It's an internal trait, but it's based so much on the external. So it's how we assess our skills and abilities. It's our willingness to try and go for it. It's how much of the world success we think we have. It's how we feel we stack up and measure compared to others. It's, if we're winning or losing, right? The studies show that the boxer who wins a fight is automatically 30% more confident. Our confidence fluctuates, and it's volatile, and it's fragile. Our self-worth is the deep internal knowing that we are worthy of love and belonging exactly as we are, not as our past or our past mistakes or our past failures, not as how much we achieve, but literally as who we are at an identity level exactly as we are. And here's what happens to so many of us is that, first of all, by every commercial we see growing up, and then by every well-intended family member, we're blessed to have well-intended family members in our life, we hear that if once we get the thing, then we're going to be happy. So we hear from family members like, oh, are you, how's your career going and your job going? Or are you married yet? Or do you have kids? And we learn to think, once I have great answers to those things, that's when I'm going to feel enough. And that's when I'm going to, or we see ads that say like, once you get the car or the six-pack abs, that all your life is going to be so much better. And so, for everyone listening to us, if you think about it in your own life and think about maybe, something that you wanted so bad and you thought once you finally get it, then you're going to be happy, fulfilled, enough. And for some of us, it might be, and you worked really, really hard for it, days, weeks, months, decades to get it. For some of us, it might be a certain level in our business, a certain dollar amount in our bank account. It could be when you finally get married or have kids or get a dream car or get the six-pack abs. And when you think about this and you finally got that thing, then what happened? Like, for a lot of us, we felt happy for a while, maybe a year or a few weeks or a few hours. And before we know it, we're back to feeling like something's missing, like something's enough, not, you know, like it's not enough or we're not enough still. And so a lot of people do that and they think, well, the solution must be I need to achieve more. I need to get more. And so then we work harder and harder and harder. And what so many people never realize is the pursuit of all those things. It's beautiful. It's important. It builds, you know, growth, contribution, and it builds a lot of self-confidence, but none of it builds self-worth. And if underneath it all, you still take you with you, whatever you achieve and whatever level you go to. And a lot of people worry, well, if I build self-worth and I think I'm enough as I am I going to lose my ambition? It's like, oh no, the stronger your self-worth, the more ambitious you become, because you're not afraid to put yourself out there, to fail, to fall flat on your face, because you know it might rattle your confidence for a minute, but it cannot touch your self-worth. And I learned this the hard way in life by literally achieving everything I thought Candy would make me happy, all the stuff the world told me was success, and I was still feeling like I wasn't enough, and I still was sabotaging things in my life and not knowing. And there was one moment in my life happened a few years ago that just shook my entire world and helped me realize, oh wow, I have a whole lot of self-confidence and a whole lot of what the world tells me success looks like, but underneath it all, I don't have self-worth. And when that's us, it rears its head in our life in three main ways. I can dive into those if you want. But learning to build our self-worth is truly the one thing that changes everything. And knowing the difference between that and self-confidence is like life-changing, because most people go their whole life and always feel like something's missing. And then they think it's their job, so they quit their job, or they think it's their partner, so they separate from their partner, and they don't realize it because deep down inside, they haven't learned yet to believe at a fundamental level that they're enough.
I think I was tearing up as you were talking for two reasons. One, I was looking at you, who you are now, and what you had to have gone through in order to feel so passionately about this subject, right? Like we often write about something that we had to go through and experience the hard way, that we now want to help other people not experience that same level of suffering. And two, I was feeling my own feelings at the same time, because I can't tell you in the last 25 years how I thought the next revenue level, the next asset, the book, something, like I was still trying to prove who I was as opposed to just being okay with how God made me. And I think that when we're trying to get all the external validation and the accolades, and we're doing it to try to fill up a void, it's never full. And I just feel like anyone that's listening, they've had to felt this at some point in their life. And if they haven't, what a blessing that you somehow had an environment that made you feel so worthy. Is there something, you mentioned those three things of how it exposes itself. Like, can you share kind of so that people are like, well, no, I think I'm confident. Maybe it is they're not 100% sure. How does it manifest itself in those three ways?
Yeah, so I'll share that, and I also just want to say, I'm listening to you right now, and I'm just having this moment where I'm remembering the first time I met you, and I remember in an instant, like feeling your soul and feeling like the goodness of who you are, and just like celebrating that. And I think so many people out there maybe believe that they are just a beautiful, good human being, but they doubt it, and they all the things, or they think they're in, and we start like learning all of these things. The world will very quickly tell us we are not enough, very quickly. And but I'm just having a moment about just in my own mind celebrating you. So I just want to share that with everyone else listening. Why not?
All the things is beautiful, because I still feel that way too. And for anyone who has not met Jamie in person, I was so glad that we're doing this interview, but there was this tinge of like, I wish she was here so that I could hug her. There is nothing like Jamie's hugs. They are just filled with pure love. And very few times do you meet people online that you see that are the exact same way behind the scenes, if not better. And that's you. And I think that should be acknowledged, because we live in a world of smoke and mirrors where people are trying to become someone in front of the camera, and they are totally incongruent with that person behind. So just wanted to acknowledge that for you. And thank you for being a strong woman that accomplishes a lot of things, but still has this heart to connect and help and serve. And it's just really rare. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Candy. And for everyone listening, it's like 3 really big ways. Because I bet you there's people listening right now going, oh, wow, I didn't know self-worth was just self-confidence. And then they're wondering, gosh, do I have a self-worth issue in my life? And and I can share too how this came to me at the moment I was at the height of my success, thought I had everything, didn't feel enough, and literally was sabotaging things in my life and not knowing why. But before I get to that, so for everyone listening, how to know, like, okay, is this really a thing? And right now, as we're talking live, 80% of women don't believe they're enough, right? 75% of female executives deal with imposter syndrome. 91% of girls and women don't love their bodies. 73% of men feel inadequate and not enough. So this is a really big issue. And a lot of people hide it. They bury it. They think they're alone in these feelings. And this is how self-worth, or they try to solve it by doing things that only build time and wonder why it's never. And so self-worth usually shows up, challenges of self-worth usually shows up in 3 main ways in our lives. And one of them, when you have really low self-worth, it often looks like you're stuck. Like you're stuck and you don't know why. And it could be that you're crushing it in some areas of your life, but but you're stuck in other ones. And maybe it's that you have an idea you want to share with the world, or you want to share it in your company and you don't know why you're not. Or you want to show up authentically on social media, but you don't know why you're not. Or you know that you have a book inside of you and you want to write it and share your story with the world, and you don't know why you haven't. You want to find a life partner. You have all the dating apps downloaded and you don't know why you haven't got on them. Like, there's so many ways we stay stuck, and we often will tell ourselves stories like, okay, if I just need more experience, I just need to build more skill sets. But really often the real reason we're stuck is because deep down inside, underneath it all, we don't believe we're worthy of the thing. And so we stay stuck. If we have low to medium self-worth, what that often looks like is we'll go for the thing, like we'll go for it, we'll put ourselves out there, we'll launch the thing, but then we'll sabotage it along the way. We'll hit a ceiling in our business and go, gosh, I know I really want to go from 5 figures to 6 figures, but I don't know why I keep hitting the ceiling. Or we'll write the first half of the book, but not the second half, and not know why. Or we'll register the domain, but then start scrolling Instagram for 8 hours a day. Like we'll meet a really incredible potential life partner, and we'll just put them in the friend zone and just like literally not be attracted to them and not know why. Or we'll meet a great potential friend as an adult, and we just won't follow up with a text. Like, our self-worth becomes our ceiling. And so a lot of times when we have low to medium self-worth, we'll sabotage things and we'll hit a ceiling in them. And then when you have medium to high self-worth, what that often looks like is you go for the thing, you make it happen, you can be crushing it everywhere, but you arrive at the thing still feeling like something's missing, like it's not enough, and like you're not enough. And you're never able to feel fulfillment or enjoy it when you get there. And there's 3 things we then just keep trying to solve with more things that build self-confidence. So it really can show up in those 3 ways. And I shared earlier how growing up I'd always watch Oprah, dreamed of meeting, and I'll cut a very long story short, but I was at the peak, my first ever peak in business, and just crushing it, and sold the business for $1.2 billion cash, and like on the Forbes list, and just stuff I like couldn't even have imagined when I was waitressing tables, right? Like all these things are happening. I was so confident, and I met Oprah for the first time, and she invited me to lunch at her house, and I had a 3-hour lunch with her, and it went better than I could have imagined. And what I didn't know at the time was I had a whole lot of self-confidence, but I didn't have self-worth. And here's what I did to that situation. I had this most amazing lunch with her. at the end, she gave me her cell phone number and said, call me anytime. You can call me anytime. And I was freaking out, but trying to play it very cool. Like, thank you and all that. And literally, Candy, I did not call her for 4 years. For 4 years. And in that 4-year window, I told myself stories like, oh, I've got to think of the perfect thing to say. Then I'm gonna call her. Or oh, everyone just wants something from her. Like, I want to prove I don't need anything. I told myself all these stories. 4 years later, I had this huge aha moment where I realized the real reason I didn't call her was because deep down inside, I did not believe I was worthy of being her friend. And in that moment is when I became obsessed with studying self-worth, with understanding the difference between self-confidence and self-worth, and also with like learning how do you build it? How do you truly build self-worth? And in that moment when I realized like the real reason, and I'd sabotaged this for 4 years in my life, that was the moment I literally imagined myself like a volume dial on the radio. I imagined myself turning down the volume on my own self-doubt, because our self-doubt lives in our thoughts, and it is not true, right? And I remember turning down the volume on my like doubting mind that says I'm not worthy in this. My soul knows I am a kick-ass friend. Like, I know I know the truth, which is then you're going to be lucky to be my friend because I'm a really good friend. And like, I had to turn down the volume on myself down, like turn up the volume on my soul, on my knowing, on the truth. You know, when I pray, I hear God in my gut feeling and my knowing and my truth. My soul knows I'm a good friend. And that was the moment I decided to listen to my knowing over all the no's in my head and pick up the phone and call. And now we've taught a course together. Not all these things have happened, but they almost didn't, because yet again in my life, I almost doubted myself out of my own destiny. And why I wrote Worthy is when I think about a world where every girl, every woman, every person, like actually learns to believe they're worthy, like, holy, like I think about the earth shaking with possibility when we all wake up in the morning. Like I think about the businesses that'll be launched, the levels that will be gone to, the ideas that will be shared, the unhealthy relationships that will end. Like when we learn to believe we are worthy, it changes every single aspect of our life, of future and past generations of our family. Like it is truly the one thing that changes everything.
It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's going to help so many people. I want everyone to get this. If you didn't, literally pause and go back and re-listen to that, because I think that's so powerful that there's so many people that are struggling with the granular. What's the strategy? What's the hack? What's the tactic? And they're looking towards all of this external as opposed to turning down that volume and going more internal. Because for me, oftentimes that's where I've found the answer. Is the more noise around me is the more chaos. When I'm able to get quiet and get still, it's like typically that voice, whether it's, you know, the universe for somebody or God for me, and I think it is for you as well. Like when you get quiet, that intuition is quiet and it can help guide you. And so I love that you shared that. And I'd love to know too, because I know, you know, people are like, oh, you've accomplished all these things. That's really great for you to look at self-worth now, right? Because somebody from the outside can be saying, you've got this, you've done that, you've been in Forbes, you're on the cover of this. So did the confidence play in to getting you here? And do you think if you would have learned the foundation of being worthy and having self-worth, that there would even have been some other level for you, which is even, that's not even possible. But I'm just curious to the skeptic that's watching to see, well, you still accomplished all these things. What do we say to them?
Yeah, I think in my life, I believe that most of my life, and I think probably a lot of people can relate to this, I have been such a people pleaser, and I thought if I achieve enough, like I confused achievement with love, and I confused significance with success, and I confused attention with worthiness. And the confusion never got me any of the feelings we all hope for. A lot of us want to achieve things because we think we'll arrive at feeling a certain feeling, which is fulfillment, love, all the things. And I feel very grateful. And by the way, I am more ambitious now and work harder now than I ever. But the difference is when I do it, I don't feel like the outcome of it is going to rattle my worth. And when everything I do now, I actually can enjoy it while I'm doing it because I know is very different than the accomplishments outside in the world. I think that I am grateful. I'm grateful for a lot of things. I share a lot of things in Worthy I've never shared before. I talk about some of the things that I have been hanging on to shame for decades over. I talk about decisions I made and people I hung around and mistakes I made and people I was attracted to that hurt me and how I kept going back to that situation. I talked about a lot of things that I think are going to shock a whole lot of my family who doesn't know yet. But I talk about them because I think it's important. I talk about those things to make sure that anybody who thinks where they are right now or their past somehow doesn't, mean that they can't accomplish the things on their heart or that they're somehow unworthy, or for anyone who thinks their past mistakes or who they've hurt can be who hurt them, could be who they past mistakes, past regret. A lot of times we think our past mistakes and failures don't just rattle our confidence, but we let them take root at an identity level. And that's when we think we're a mistake or we're a failure. And I had that for a long part of my life. I talk about how for a big part of my life, I thought I was a mistake or rejected or a failure. And I talk about a lot of the things I went through long before I had any of this stuff that the world says is what success looks like. Because this book is, while it's incredibly scary to share some of the things I share in there, I know this book is not about me. It is for every person who's doubting themselves out of their own destiny right now. And similarly, Candy, I share some of the wild things that might even seem unrelatable. They certainly do to me for most of my life, but I actually believe I had the blessing of going through some of them to realize, oh, this isn't it. This isn't it actually how you feel fulfilled. Oh, wow, this isn't what makes you happy. And this isn't it. No matter how much you achieve and accomplish. Now, listen, there's a whole chapter I go into on like the ultimate fulfillment equation where I talk about how important confidence is and growth and contribution. And those things are important to always be going after your dreams. But all of those are multiplied by your level of self-worth in order to get your level of fulfillment. And I believe I'm so grateful to have achieved a bunch of stuff to know, oh, wow, I did that and still felt like I wasn't enough. And what I know now is it does not matter if you're someone that has a lot of ambition or not. It does not matter if you're someone who has achieved a lot on the outside or has a lot of money or doesn't. I believe neither has a better shot at feeling happiness, true worth, and fulfillment. Every single person, this is what I know to be true, and the studies all back it up. Every single person listening to us right now, no matter what they have or haven't achieved, no matter if they are not sure how to pay the rent this month or how to end a healthy relationship or unhealthy relationship, no matter what situation we're all in, every single person right now is fully worthy exactly as they are. Nobody can give it to you. And what's so important to know is this isn't a journey about learning a ton of skills on how to believe you're enough. This is a journey about unlearning all the lies that make you believe you're not enough exactly as you are. And embracing our full worth, which is how we step into our superpower in life and also how we step into fulfillment and happiness, is literally there for everyone. And it is independent of how hard our circumstances are or how easy they are. It's independent of all the things happening around us. Yeah. And and when we learn to embrace it, it's the one thing that changes everything, because then we make better decisions with what we trade our time for, with what we trade our energy for, all of it, because we know it doesn't impact our fulfillment per se. And most of my life, I've worked multiple jobs all at once, just trying to rape it to make it by. And then I've had other situations, right, where my business is pushing it and I've had all of those situations. And what I know is none of them are relevant to our worth. None of them. And none of them bring us, true fulfillment. Of course, our growth and all those other things are really, really important, but they're not the thing that impacts our worthiness. And so when we learn to believe we are worthy exactly as we are, it's how we're fulfilled in every step of our journey in life. When we're growing and crushing it, it's how we stay rock solid when we're failing miserably externally everywhere. It's how we know we're unshakable. There's a whole chapter in here about, for anyone who believes in, has faith in their life, just about, how to believe God's word over your own self-doubt. There are so many foundational things that are what I lean on now, that are completely irrelevant to external circumstances or how well everything looks like it's going on the outside. Because we've all seen people, and we can just look around in politics right now, we can look around in business right now, look around in celebrity worlds right now. People can have it all. And when they do not have self-worth, I mean, it's a whole other thing. And we can see it play out everywhere. It's really, truly the one thing that does not matter what level of success or privilege you might have. It doesn't matter how much success or failure you might have. It's the one thing that you can truly do, I believe, to change your entire life. Because we are all in relationships. We are all in friendships. We all have ambitions and hopes and dreams in our life. And your self-worth will determine the ceiling for what you believe you're worthy of in all of it.
So it's so incredible. And I can't, you actually touched on something I wanted to just add, which is about the celebrities and politics and large, huge companies and entrepreneurs, that it just seems like people that are just starting or haven't quite yet achieved the things that they want to achieve, they just haven't had the life data to look at to see, oh, I did that and that was great for a moment, but then I was going to achieve something else. So now I think it's this, right? It's not your first million, now it's 10. Okay, now I'm going to do 10 million, and then you get there and now you're not fulfilled again. I almost feel like you need to have a lot of life data or lean on somebody else's life data to realize that the true path to fulfillment, as you're saying, is not on any of these specific accolades that the world celebrates. And that's really hard.
Yeah.
Right? It's really hard to.
Yeah. And those things are fun. Like, I am all for all the accolades and for working hard, and it's great to crush it and to achieve it. And it does not bring you fulfillment. It brings you growth and self-confidence, which is important. But so many of us know this, who have hit that goal and hit that next level, that we still feel like something's missing if we don't have self-worth underneath it all. By the way, we're in a whole new day and age now. There's a chapter in Worthy. There's over 20 tools in here on how to build unshakable self-worth. One of the chapters in here called Overexposed and Underdeveloped. And it's like how we are in a world right now. And this is just so tempting for people who don't understand the difference between self-worth and self-confidence. And you see all of these people who are so good at talking about the thing as an expert, but they've never actually done the thing.
Yes.
Or they blow up really fast with fame about something. And you're like, oh, but they haven't put in the reps yet of really like understanding what they're talking about, or they're incongruent. Like you said earlier, they're incongruent. They're putting on a persona that they're an expert in this thing, versus just like, I'm right alongside you in this thing. So they're showing up inauthentically, and you're seeing them come crashing down everywhere. And because you can't sustain that, you cannot fake authenticity. And we have a whole world now, and technology is beautiful in so many ways, but there's no barriers to entry for anything anymore. So even there's no products are being launched with no regulatory compliance or safety data, or expertise behind them, but just a great web page. They're just everything right now. There's no barriers to entry. And while that has its pros, one of the cons is just that it's so easy for people to get fame quickly or get social media status quickly, become overexposed and underdeveloped. And a lot of people think, well, I don't want to put in the reps. That's hard. I don't want to do any of those things. I just want to shoot right to the top and take all the shortcuts. And that's exciting short term. But when your exposure does not match your development, it will always come crashing down. And so I go kind of like granular in this chapter on how even when I was building one of my greatest mentors, everyone had said no to us for years and it's never going to work. All the stores, it was hundreds of no's for years. And when we finally started crushing it, when we finally were wanted, right? All of a sudden, we had all the stores telling me no that wanted us in their stores. And she told me, you do not want, your exposure has to match your development, because a lot of people get stuff instantly or they're hot for a minute and they just go everywhere, but then they actually can't deliver or sustain it because they haven't put in the rep. Yeah. And I remember her saying, you have to be a steward of your own momentum. And I actually, which was so hard to do after years of being unwanted, all of a sudden when you're wanted, it feels good. And these stores were wanting us. And I knew, Candy, that at that time, my infrastructure was not developed enough for me to go into all these stores and be able to hit sales numbers as a top 5 brand. And I knew I had to be a top 5 brand or I wasn't going to get window displays. I wasn't going to get ads. I wasn't going to get theirs. I knew I had to go in there and crush it or I would be kicked out as fast as I got in. And I started regulating my momentum, which is counterintuitive to a lot of us, right? And I remember saying no to stores I'd wanted to get in so bad for years, waiting until my development can match my exposure so that I can go in and actually crush it for them and stay and then start multiplying the business. And so it was not to get like so business granular here, but this applies to every area of our life too. It's not just about believing you're worthy of it, which is our biggest, I think, journey in life. It's also so important to do the work and to make sure that your exposure matches your development. And one more thing that I thought of, just because I've never talked about this before, but I'm just reminded of it thinking of you and thinking about so many of our mutual friends and just how much personal development you have been exposed to in the work. And I remember having this big epiphany that so many people teach how to overcome limiting beliefs, which is so important in our lives, but that often people have done the work on overcoming limiting beliefs when it comes to things like, I'm not smart enough. I can never make $1 million, like all these things. And they can do this important work of overcoming those limiting beliefs, which is beautiful and powerful. But if you don't also overcome the limiting belief that you are worthy of those things, they still will not come. They won't happen. You'll sabotage them when they do. So this is just why I wrote Worthy, is because I had done a lot of work of overcoming limiting beliefs. And what I didn't realize is a lot of them were just all centered around things that made me more confident. But I was still sabotaging stuff because underneath it all, I didn't think I was worthy of it. So like, it's the thing. Like all the things that build our confidence are like the house with all the rooms, the house that we build with the rooms and the decor. And like, it's so awesome and fun and important, but our self-worth is the foundation under that house. And our house will only ever be as secure as that foundation. So it's truly the one thing that does just change everything. So
it's the exact analogy I saw in my mind while you were talking. And I think we have a ton of entrepreneurs. And so I think the wisdom that you shared in that clip of how you pause, I think it's so important when you're building. And again, this could be anything, but we talk a lot about building companies here. When you're building a company, if you don't have those fundamentals right, if you don't have that foundation built, and you go and you start blowing through revenue goals and team goals, we see the data that it will actually come crashing down because you did not build a sustainable base. And what I love is that you're talking about this on such a deep level. It's like the principle still applies, but you're talking about on such a deep level that they can then go do all of that and have their business stable and have that foundation. But if they don't go to the fundamental root of who they are and actually fix that, then eventually that's not going to be sustainable either. And I have never heard anyone talk about it in such a different way, right? I hear so often people say that they don't have fulfillment. And I know, and I think I might have shared this once on the show. We might have actually edited it out. But when I wrote my book, this is like a great example of exactly what you're talking about, of what not to do. I wrote the book. I really didn't have like a massive connection or think that we were going to do so well because first time author, not really heard about, like didn't have a ton of support with it. So we kind of knew that it was just going to be okay. Hit Wall Street Journal, #3. We were all so excited. I'm at this amazing resort in Mexico. I go back to my room and I start tearing up. And I remember thinking, why am I having this emotional reaction to something great, right? Like I've had the big exits and done these things, but what is this? And I think two things. One, I was absolutely, utterly exhausted, as you know, doing a book launch. But two, I felt like I messed up. Like I feel like along that way, I somehow forgot the things that I know to be true, that this is somehow going to change some reality where really I knew instinctively that it wasn't, but it was almost like I forgot and got in my own way for a minute. And then here I am almost unhappy as opposed, and I share this just vulnerably, as opposed to connecting with all of the people's lives it was going to change. And so I think that even when you do this work, I don't know if this happens to you, but it's like even when you do the work, something else can trip you up and make you kind of get rattled again that you now have to go back in and do the work. So I don't know if you've ever had that, with you.
Yes. And it's a lifelong journey, right? And we have these deep neural pathways carved. And oh, yeah, there's a whole chapter in Worthy called When You Change Your Relationship with Rejection, You Change Your Life. And it goes into this like deep 4-part framework on how to reframe rejections, revisit past rejections, and completely transform the meaning you attach to them. But I even with something like that tool, which I apply daily, I still find myself defaulting back to old things, and I have to catch it. And I have to it is a lifelong journey for sure. And I love that you vulnerably shared that, by the way. And what a massive deal. Like number 3 Wall Street Journal best-selling author. And congratulations, and so deserved. But yeah, absolutely. And I love that you share that because there's so many people that will see you on the outside and just not, and then the things that they're feeling and going through, they don't realize that it's not just them.
Yeah.
And this is a lifelong journey. And, now that I've had the blessing of not just meeting tens of thousands of entrepreneurs, but also some of my life's greatest mentors I couldn't have even imagined meeting. What I know for sure is every single one of them is on a lifelong journey as a lifelong student of still having the same feelings of self-doubt, still having to be on a journey and building their self-worth and believing they're worthy of the things that they want and the things they want to become and the things that they have. It's a lifelong journey for all of us. And the beautiful part is being aware of the journey, because so many people, and they're just spinning their wheels forever thinking this other thing is going to solve it, and then always feeling like something's missing. So, but yeah, to your point, it's like once you start doing this work, it's beautiful. I also think, and I'll just speak to women for a long time, and even ambitious women, even women that are crushing it in their careers, etc. We still, at a fundamental level, many of us were raised to believe self-love is selfish, and we just need to show up for everyone else and do all the things and make everyone happy, and which is just ingrained in us as people pleasers. And then we still feel like, even though I am just pouring love into other people, why do I feel lonely? And why do I feel disconnected? And you look at all the data, and we think we're loving everyone else by people pleasing and doing whatever they need and all the things, but you cannot actually, like the level and depth of love and connection you can have with another human being, whether it's a friend, a child, a family member, a partner, you can only have a level and depth of love and connection with another human being as the level of depth and connection you have with yourself. And so, yeah. And the more that you learn to build your own self-worth and to love and embrace who you are, the more you are able to connect and have deep love with another human being. It is that feeling there as well. So it is actually the least selfish thing you can do to build your own self-worth and self-love, because it's the biggest offering of love then to the people around you who are able to connect with you at such a deeper level, understand you at such a deeper level, and have an example for them of how they're worthy of learning to love and embrace who they are in their own lives as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think that too speaks to every single person that you can't, maybe you have someone in your family, I know all dynamics are different, that you can't connect with, or you don't have the level of love that you feel that you should get from this person. It's like, now when you really understand that was so beautifully said, it's like you have empathy for that person because they have such a disconnected relationship from themselves that they don't have the ability to love you so deeply. My gosh, thank you so much for sharing that. That was so beautiful. And I think that's going to heal so many hearts that hear it. I know we're on a time crunch. I feel like I could talk to you for another 2 hours. I want to make sure that everybody knows where to get the book, where they can find out more. I know you're doing amazing things for the launch. So can you share a little bit about who this book's for and where they can find it?
Yeah, so Worthy, I am so excited. So Worthy is out in the world, everywhere books are sold. I'm so excited to finally share that. And yeah, I'm donating 100% of the proceeds. It is a book for every single person who doubts, who's ever felt like they are not enough, who wants to learn like tools, real tools, to build unshakable self-worth, to believe you're enough, and to transform your life. So it's really, it's just, and I'm so excited to get out there in the world. And when you go, I sell nothing on my site. This is literally just my offering to the world. But when you go to wherever you grab your book from, when you go to worthybook.com, there's lots of awesome thank you gifts and bonuses and stuff like that at worthybook.com. And my only ask of anyone who picks it up is that once you are done with your book, share it. Give your book to another woman, another person. When the hardcover version has this library card I did, because I'm just imagining everyone writing their name and passing it on. Like, if you wrote so many notes you don't want to pass your book on, but you gift one to someone else, have them write your name in that library card and then their name. Because I'm imagining full library cards. Like, I just have this vision: no girl, no woman, no person left behind, and knowing that they're worthy. And I'm so excited for this to impact the lives of everyone who picks it up. And for anyone who grabs Worthy, let Candy and me know, favorite
Yes.
like how it's impacting your life, because we're all in this journey together.
I love that. And if you are watching this right now, we're going to do something just as a giveaway. So anybody, take your biggest piece of value that Jamie shared, tag us, post it, and we'll pick 25 people to send them a copy of Worthy straight to their house. Because I'll tell you what, I just want to end with this. I don't know exactly what God did special when he made you and how he crafted who you are, but you have such a heart and such a gift that I think it is incredible that you are putting words on pages and getting it out into the world so that not only your kids' generations have women to look up to and words to understand that they are worthy of their wildest dreams, but for generations of women and people to come. So I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for being here. Thank you for writing this, and just thank you for who you are in the world.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you too.
Thank you for having
Yes,
me.
we'll get this out. Worthybook.com, guys. Go grab your copy. You know I don't do this, but this is a book that you need to read. And I just want to thank you again for spending this time.